groups of people or people that had a lot of money that could then control what policies were being voted on and how they were being voted on. That does not help people. We don't want that involved in politics. We don't want our politicians being told how they need to vote on things. Running clean means like none of that is involved, and nor would I want to be involved with any of that stuff. And so those $5 donations mean that there's no special interest that will be trying to control my campaign or my decision making.
Welcome back to Around the Districts podcast, where we bring important conversations to our community. This space is all about learning, listening, and understanding the issues that impact our neighborhood and our future. We are back with Laura Huber. She's running for Arizona State Senate in Legislative District 25. Welcome back, Laura.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it. We know that obviously politics is very divided right now. It's very one side or the other, which we know it shouldn't be because so many people are in the middle. As we discussed earlier in the last podcast, especially in your district, it's like, basically a third, not quite, but pretty close. A third Republican, a third Democrat, and a third independent. So many people are in the middle, and even if you're on the right or the left, you still are somewhere in the middle, and most people are not extreme. Mm-hmm. How do you plan to work with people on both sides and work with people that may not necessarily agree with you and your side or your beliefs?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would just start with, I think we just talk about the policies themselves. I think sometimes I'll post something and people will be like, "You didn't say if you were a Democrat or a Republican," and it's like that right there is the issue. Like we're so concerned with these labels, and then people have these associations with the labels, and they have a problem with the label itself, rather than going, "Well, do I agree with these policies?" I go out and I talk to a lot of people and I ask them to sign my nomination petition, and I'll talk about the issues that I care about, like education and affordability and healthcare, and we're in agreement. And then if they hear someone say, right after that, "Are you a Democrat or Republican?" And they're like, "Oh, you're a Democrat, take my name off there." And it's like, wait a second, you just agreed with my policies. And so I think that that's the place that we connect with each other, is talking about things that matter to everybody, because there are a lot of things that we agree on, and we get stuck in these like minutia that people have really strong opinions about, that are issues that maybe affect people like 1/10 of the amount of time that things like clean water or education or healthcare affect people. And so I think we really just have to focus on the places that everybody benefits, and recognizing that we're all just people trying to do the best we can to have the best quality lives. And I think that is where we connect, is the humanness in each other, and that we're all just trying to do the best we can to help the most people.
Right. So what do you say to those people who say, "Oh, you're a Democrat, never mind, take my name off your petition"? Like, do you try to win them over, or like what do you say to them?
Well, like I said, I'll say, "Wait a second, we just talked about this and you agreed with everything I said. We're on the same page." But I think another thing I say is, um, wouldn't it be nice if we can work across the aisle? I think that's what everybody wants. And that is a place where a lot of times people will be like, "Yes, that's true." We do really need to be able to have calm, respectful conversations with each other, and work through these issues, because I think we, on social media and sometimes on the news, we see this really inflammatory stuff. We see like the worst of the worst, and that does not represent the majority of our population. There are also plenty of Republicans who will respectfully decline, "No, I'm a Republican, but I wish you the best." And that's the kind of stuff that we don't see. That's not typically on the news. This like
Right.
respectful camaraderie, like, "I have a different view, but I wish you the best." And I think that's something that really needs to be brought to the forefront a lot more, because there's what we do end up seeing is the stuff that gets clicks, or the stuff that makes people open up a news ad, and that doesn't represent the majority of people.
Right. And plus, the issues that you're talking about are nonpartisan issues, like they impact
Mhm.
everybody, and so if people understand that this is an issue that impacts you or me, and I might be a Democrat, you might be a Republican, what we're going to get be affected the same way. It doesn't matter where our labels, as you said, are. So I think that's a really good point. Now, um, your mental health degree,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Therapist background, does that tend to scare people away a little bit when you tell them what you do?
I've not it might, they don't tell me if it does. I think mostly if someone has a reaction to it, it's a positive one, like, "Oh, yeah," they tell me about, like, their therapist or, their kid is seeing this person that was really helpful or, I've had people say, I think more people running for office should be therapists because of, the ability to, like, know firsthand what helps people and how to best convey those things and the leadership skills that are required of that profession, and just being a good listener, which is so essential to leadership. So I haven't had anyone have a negative reaction to it yet, but
I mean, I think that's a good thing that you haven't. And only reason why I asked is some people think that's like a woo woo thing, mental
Mhm.
health, but it's really not. It really, in
No.
this day and time, and ever since COVID, in my opinion, I
Yeah.
mean, that's become a topic that a lot of people are talking about in a positive way. But culturally, there are some cultures who don't believe in that type of
Yes.
therapy or whatever. So just wondering from your perspective, are you having a positive impact
Mhm.
on the voters in your community? When they know what you do, and how would you bring that experience into the ledge if you are elected?
Mhm. Well, I wanna back up for a second because I appreciate you saying that. There has historically been a stigma associated with mental health, and it still continues, particularly in some specific cultures. But I do think that more and more people are aware that just like everyone has physical health, everyone has mental health. And so it's a ridiculous thing to pretend like mental health issues don't exist. We're all affected by them. Every single one of us has stress. Every single one of us gets anxiety about times. Every single one of us has depression experiences at times. And I think that's something I would really like to integrate more at a policy level too, is making sure, especially that we have more mental health counselors in schools. And I really think we should start integrating mental health skills into like elementary school and middle school. How wonderful would it be if kids were taught from a young age how to identify their emotions and healthy ways to cope with their thoughts and emotions rather than we wait until someone has like catastrophically negative things happen in their lives and they're burning out to the point where they finally decide they're going to go into counseling. And so people deserve better than that. And again, I think that that's not a partisan issue. Like I think everybody would agree that it would be beneficial for us all to have healthier coping skills from a young age.
Especially making that more readily available in rural areas, which I think it's harder. We know it's harder to get a lot of those things in rural areas. I don't think that is readily available there,
Mhm.
especially in schools.
Yeah.
There's been a huge improvement in access to mental health care in rural areas since COVID because
Mhm.
they started requiring insurance companies to cover telehealth services, and
Yeah.
so that's definitely something that needs to continue, is the support for mental health providers that are doing telehealth services.
Yeah.
Yeah. What keeps you motivated though during a challenging campaign like the one that you have? Like what keeps you going
Mhm.
to the point where you're like, this is hard, but I'm gonna give up because what matters to you,
Yeah.
to keep you going.
Well, I mean, you asked me what had brought me into running for office, and certainly all the things that I mentioned, but also just seeing the current Trump administration, I find deeply concerning. And I think that we have to have a lot more ethical, professional, moral people that are involved.
Wouldn't that be nice?
And so I think that that is definitely super important to me, for sure.
So you're running up against an incumbent in this election, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
So can you tell us a little bit about that and how you plan to stay motivated and maybe sway some votes in your direction from that? Because we know it is difficult to run up against an incumbent, but we have seen people, especially in this election and in some special elections, that have been unseated. So it's definitely not unheard of. So how do you plan on overcoming that?
Yes. Yes, so I'm running against Tim Dunn. He is, the Republican incumbent. He's a farmer from Yuma. Um, I guess I hope to bring a fresh new perspective and a completely different one, right? Like he is a farmer. I have a farming background. Obviously, you talked about how I come from 5 generations of ranchers and farmers, so it's deeply ingrained in my family. So I have that perspective, but I also have the perspective of having worked in jails, having done homeless outreach, having worked in numerous psychiatric hospitals, having overseen crisis mobile teams and Globe and Payson. And so I've been doing this for close to 20 years now, and I'm deeply integrated into all these systems and also have networks and other professionals that I can speak to and get their perspectives about those systems and how we can correct them. And I would think that that's my biggest strength in comparison to Tim Dunn is that he has the farming perspective, but I have that plus a whole bunch of other perspectives that I think that can be really beneficial. And I think we have term limits for a reason. Even in therapy, you get to a point where you're like, well, this particular therapist or this particular therapeutic modality has done what it can do to help you. Maybe you want a new perspective. Maybe you want a new therapist or a different type of therapeutic modality to integrate some new skills or some new things that could be helpful. We're not just repeating the same stuff. And so I think that's true when it comes to politicians as well. Like we want to get new ideas, new feedback, new ways of doing things, new approaches. And I think that's what I can bring. Going back to what keeps me motivated, the people. I think again, when we watch the news, it can be really easy to get hopeless. Like, oh my gosh, yet another thing. I see these memes and it's like we had the last straw like 1,000 straws ago. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of
exactly.
people can
We
relate.
had, yeah.
And the coolest thing about running for office is that you just meet such amazing people. You meet people that you see working really, really hard to change things in a positive direction, who genuinely care, who are genuinely doing it because of their values, because they want people to be treated with dignity and respect, and they want people to receive the services that they have a legitimate right to. And so I feel very hopeful and very excited within the system of running for office because there's so many wonderful people that I meet along the way. And I think it helps me to trust that we can move things in a positive direction together.
Right. G- Well,
I love it. Sorry. I love that you say that because I have a couple of things. One is that I think a lot of people, I think people wanted change, and that's why we got what we got and what we have right now. But I think people are also looking for a change too and want fresh eyes and fresh blood in politics. But two, I think people feel like, oh, politicians are all corrupt and they're all bad and all of this. But what you said is that people want to make a change. And I do believe that that's why people get into politics and maybe not just become politicians, but get into politics, period, because they want to make a positive change in whatever it is. And I love that you have that positive voice and that positive outlook and are meeting those people and see firsthand, because I truly believe that people get involved because they want to make a change. I don't think all politicians get into politics to try and fleece the system. I think that that's just absurd. I think everyone starts and most people still are in it because they want to make a change in their communities and make a change for the better for the people that they care about and love, you know? And I love that you're meeting those people in your community.
well, I have a question about affordability, because
Yes.
I know that's one of that's your platform. That's the biggest thing you're running on right now. If
Mhm.
you're elected to the legislation, like what would you do as a legislator? What policy would you want to work on first regarding affordability
I
that would
mean,
impact your community?
Yeah, I mean, healthcare immediately comes to mind
Yeah.
because I'm involved in healthcare, and we talked about how there are a lot of things that we can do to make healthcare more affordable, starting with heavily regulating insurance companies. And insurance companies are not going to like that I'm saying that, but that's part of why I'm running clean, because I don't have to be involved in all that PAC money. But we talked a bit about how insurance companies should not be able to control diagnoses and length of stay and style of treatment and be able to call back funds because they felt like a doctor's note didn't say exactly what it needed to say to justify the care that was provided. Like these are things that should not be happening. Um, it was a largely Republican decision to no longer provide the tax credits for the health insurance through healthcare.gov. And so that's why pretty much everyone's health insurance skyrocketed to about 3 times what it typically is. That in itself has caused tens of thousands of people to be taken off the healthcare market. And what happens when people don't have health insurance? It's not that they don't have medical issues. They're still going to go to
Right.
the hospital. Then and who pays for that? Taxpayers, right? And so this myth that somehow it costs taxpayers more to provide health insurance to people is absolutely not true because
Right.
you can bankrupt hospitals. We see that happening where there's fewer and fewer hospitals, fewer and fewer doctors that are willing to work in hospitals because of these issues. So if we want people to receive quality medical care and have access to medical care, we have to do something about making sure that it's affordable to people. So I would love for us to have universal health care. That may not be something that people are willing to agree on at this point, but before that, we can at least try to heavily regulate the cost of healthcare and insurance companies. And so that's definitely a huge place that we can make things more affordable for people.
Well, also people won't go to the hospital if they can't afford it until it's too late, right?
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
there's that issue too. But we know that's an uphill battle just nationally. That's divided the nation healthcare has, right? Where they want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare since people don't really know they're the same thing. Um,
Mhm.
how are you gonna though reach across the aisle to your Republican friends and get them on board with the idea of affordable healthcare here in Arizona?
Mhm. I mean, again, I think it's the way that we talk about it. And so we talked a bit about labels before and how if someone hears the label Democrat, they might just go like, "I don't like you just because I heard that label." I think sometimes people can do that when they hear Affordable Care Act, and it's like it's not a bad thing just because of those words, you know. So I think it's being able to talk about what the benefits are that are universal for everyone. I think there's so much misinformation and disinformation, intentionally misleading people and propaganda that people are highly exposed to on social media and some news networks like Fox that cause people to think very differently about systems that are actually helpful. And so I think that's something that we can really try to regulate as well is the huge amount of disinformation, holding people accountable when they're saying things that are factually untrue and making sure that with things like debates we're correcting people in real time so they can't just be making all kinds of claims and saying all kinds of things that are untrue and then people believe that and then it again causes this divisiveness or feeling like something's not a good idea or that it doesn't benefit them when it actually does.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's your take on the healthcare outside of healthcare, since we've talked a lot about that, but like the everyday issues that affect families, the economy being a big one, especially now that oil prices and things are starting to go up for most of us or all of us who don't drive electric cars, which
Right.
I don't.
Well, we don't need to
So
get into unnecessary wars. That
yeah,
definitely
and,
doesn't solve
and
the
unnecessary wars.
yeah.
What kind of a policy would you want, like for the economy, or would it be because your background is in farming, like making sure that there's land for like locally grown food, because
Mhm.
that would impact us and bring down costs, right, for Arizona or even for the nation. What's
Supporting
your
farmers for sure.
what's your
I think
policy, or what
another
what policy would you want on that one?
Yeah. I think another really important place would be regulating housing. So right now, a huge reason that housing is so unaffordable for people is because corporations just go around buying it up.
Right.
And families or college students or young people cannot compete with a corporation that has millions in dollars of cash that they can just drop wherever they want to. Like if someone gets a cash offer, they're probably going to take that versus someone that they have to receive money over time. So we can regulate it by saying, we could have laws like a corporation can't own more than two homes, or family homes have to go to people that actually intend on living in the home, or the house has to be on the market for at least a year before a corporation can even consider buying it. Like there are definitely regulations that can be put in place to control the cost of housing and make it much more affordable for people. And I think that would be the number one way that we could help people. And you mentioned too, making sure that we have access to local food and that we're supporting our farmers. Those are all such important things.
Yeah. Well, final question,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
You
Oh,
gonna
you want
I want you to
okay.
ask the final question.
All right. So what do you hope that voters understand after hearing our conversation today?
Mhm. I mean, I hope they hear my authenticity and my genuineness and my excitement about the opportunity to help as many people as possible. And I feel so committed to that responsibility. I want them to know that I will work really, really hard to do the absolute best I can to raise their voices and help the most people possible. And that I'm always open to their feedback and their information and their perspective and their ideas about how we can make this state and this district a place that people feel healthy and happy and safe and supported in.
Yeah, and I think we get that from you just talking to you, and I really hope that although they may love your opponent Tim Dunn, but they give you a chance as well. So how can they reach out to you and support your campaign?
Well, a really exciting thing is that I maxed out the number of electronic nomination petition signatures that I could
Oh,
receive and
woohoo!
got an additional like 51 pages of signatures. So I'm definitely going to be on the ballots.
Right on.
And as of right now, neither Tim Dunn nor I have people that we're running against in the primary. So I will be in the general election running against Tim Dunn, and that is super exciting. So the number one way that people can support me now is donating $5 through Clean Elections. So you can see there's this like donate QR code over here. You can do that through my website, Laura Huber for azsenate.com, or go straight to it through Equal, which is the Arizona State's Secretary of State website. It's secure. I don't get any of your financial information or any information about you. The Secretary of State encrypts all of that information. But I need about 240 people to donate $5. And what happens then, none of that money goes towards me or my campaign. Then I turn that into Clean Elections, and then they provide public funding for my campaign. And sometimes people have questions about that. Like, is that taxpayer dollars that's supporting your campaign? No, it's not.
No.
And so that's an important piece to understand too. Like this campaign, even though it's public funding, does not come from taxpayer dollars. It comes from like campaign violation money or like criminal charges, fines, things like that. And so it running clean just means that a lot of historically traditional campaigns would have different PACs or groups of people or people that had a lot of money that could then control what policies were being voted on and how they were being voted on. And they could be like, well, I gave this money to your campaign, so you need to vote this way, or you need to say these are the things that you believe. And that's, again, that does not help people. That helps special interests, that helps the
Right.
billionaire class, that helps whatever that PAC is concerned about. And so we don't want that involved in politics. We don't want our politicians being told how they need to vote on things. And so running clean means like none of that is involved. And nor would I want to be involved with any of that stuff. And so those $5 donations mean that there's no special interest that will be trying to control my campaign or my decision making.
Right.
I
Working
can
strictly for the people.
That's right.
exactly.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, for anybody that's watching this, you can click on that QR code. We'll also have all of these links here in the show notes so that you can follow the links as well, so you can help donate to her campaign. So, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We learned so much about your district that we did not know. And I hope that people will follow you, help donate, and vote for you in this upcoming election. But we really appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much.
Thank you both. It's been really nice speaking with you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's been wonderful. So if anybody has any comments, questions, please leave us a comment, like, share, and follow, and go follow and donate to Laura Huber in her upcoming election. This has been the Around the Districts podcast, and we will see you on the next episode.